How's it going, people? Welcome back to my channel. Sorry about that. Sorry we're a bit late, people. A couple audio issues, but we're there. Hopefully all is well, and hopefully you can hear us loud and clear. I even forgot to play my intro. That's how much of a rush I was to come on, but it is what it is. Let's just get straight into it. Why is Turkish so angry in that picture? I don't know. Did you see the new thumbnail, Mo?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't even notice that. You're always angry, aren't you?
I said I'm always angry. But that's true. I guess, yeah, if you catch me outside the stadium more often than not, yeah, that is my face. So
Exactly.
that's the one we're used to. But Mo, thanks for giving me another, hour of your time.
No worries, my friend.
I know it is precious, but listen, a lot to talk about since the last time. I think the last one we done was 30th of December, I believe. So last year now.
Wow, yeah. So, well, Happy New Year. It seems a bit late.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. Happy New Year. And Happy New Year to everyone in here. Obviously, there's a lot of people watching this particular show that don't tune into others because, they like your opinion, the way we bounce off each other. So big up everyone in the chat and in the live. Make sure you guys hit the like button if you want to continue seeing this every couple of weeks. And give us your questions, thoughts. We will go through the comments when we get time in between conversations. And let's just kick into it, Mo. I guess the biggest news since the last time we spoke, aside from the good form, is that Mesut Ozil, that situation is done and dusted. And I just want to ask you first and foremost, his legacy at the club. That's what a lot of people have been asking me. What's his legacy now he's moved on? And I want to hear your opinion.
Yeah, I think when I was speaking to Robbie about this on AFTV, for me, his legacy is world class at best and absent at worst, sort of thing. Because, when I say absent at worst, I don't even mean necessarily on the pitch. I'm talking about what he's been, in the way he's been exiled from the club in recent weeks, prior to his departure. But I do think, I always make the point that prior to his arrival, we had not won a trophy for 9 years. I mean, that is Tottenham territory. It's that bad. 9 goddamn years. And he came and he changed that. His detractors won't necessarily want to admit that, but I don't regard myself as an Ozil fanboy. You can go back and watch my interviews over the years, and I've called him out when he's had bad games. I've said in the past that he's got no divine right to play, when I felt like he wasn't stepping up and doing the right things and putting in the right level of commitment. I just think that, going and exiling him is just spiting yourself almost. There's a balance to be struck with Mesut Ozil, and that's not to let him think he's untouchable, but also not to hold him to that level of account where you don't get the benefit that he can offer. So in all, I think his legacy is a positive one, and I'd give him a 7 out of 10 because ultimately trophies are what it's all about, and he helped us win numerous FA Cups. And most importantly, it's like when you play football, if you win 4-0, the fourth goal isn't as worth the same as the first goal. The first FA Cup changed things. And throughout those 9 years, you would have said it, I said it, many people would have said it. If we just win one trophy, then more will come. And he helped us win just that one trophy we were so desperate for, and then more did come. So for me, he does leave a legacy, but he's not a legend at Arsenal.
Yeah. I think it's good to add that in at the end because, again, a lot of people do tend to, divide opinion on that itself. And I agree with you, Mo, I know you said a lot of the detractors might not, and I wouldn't necessarily call myself one of those, but I was so happy when he signed. And I've got to give him credit for coming to us, because he signed for us at a time where we had got rid of literally of every single world-class player, aside from Santi, who we had just got the year before, out of the club. And Ozil came to us at a time where I didn't think we could even sign top talent anymore. He opened doors, not only through helping us with the FA Cup. Other players had a part to play in that FA Cup too, because Zola, Ramsey, just to name a few. But you're right, it coincides with his arrival, and it's not a coincidence in my opinion. I think when a player like that comes in, the Ramseys, the Cazorlas, they get gassed by it as much as fans do, And Sanchez came the year after. Would Sanchez have chosen us over Liverpool if Ozil didn't come through the door a year later? There's all these questions that I give Ozil credit for. And what did we win on? 3 or 4 FA Cups?
4 FA Cups, 4 Charity Shields, I think.
Yeah, no, 2 Charity Shields, 4 FA Cups. Yeah,
was it only 2?
2. I'm pretty sure I read 2, but maybe it was 3. Maybe it was 3. But I also look at that 15-16 season, Mo. where the coulda, woulda, shoulda, and I put it down to, honestly, I remember that season, because it's the last season that there was any hope in me, but Sanchez and Giroud letting the club and letting Ozil down from about January, February till the end of the season, in terms of missing a lot of chances. On another season, in another reality, Ozil gets top of assists, break Henry's record, and we win the league. And then me asking you this question is a non-entity. There's no question about him being a legend, his legacy.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what like, if anyone watching this thinks that Ozil was a legend at Arsenal, that's for me where I draw a very clear line. For me, a player has basically got to be near perfect in simply what they do as an individual on the pitch and off the pitch and all that sort of stuff, if they're not going to win a league, to be classed as a legend. At Arsenal, that's just the standards we set. You can't really be a legend without winning a league title. Because so many people have gone and done it before.
Yeah.
At Tottenham, Gareth Bale, of course, he'll be a Tottenham legend. Harry Kane, of course, Tottenham legend. Whoever else you want to say. Son. Yeah, even Son, he'll be a Tottenham legend. Hugo Lloris, Tottenham legend. You can reel them off. What's the common denominator? None of them have won a trophy, never mind a league. But to be classed as a legend at Arsenal, to actually sit in the company of other Arsenal legends, where imagine being in a room full of other Arsenal legends, Henry's, Bergkamp's, the famous back four, even going back, to the 70s when we did so well. I just think that, you'd be out of place if you've not even won a league title. So that's why, for me, he hasn't won a league title. It'd take an incredibly special player. I'm trying to think. Maybe who'd be the closest? I don't know. Maybe we can have a conversation about who the biggest Arsenal legend is who hasn't won a league.
Yeah.
And then maybe he'd be quite high up in that conversation. But
Yeah, you're right, and you make a good point, because the first thing I think of, and the first argument, in a sense, if we're discussing legends, is he's got 2 league titles. He helped us to 3 league titles, and it's always league titles, the bare minimum. Champions Leagues in Europe being next up. It's not the FA Cups of the world. And I think, as much as we're on Ozil, I think that falls onto Ramsey too, who has been labelled by some a legend, but in my opinion, in a room full of real legends, I think Ozil and Ramsey would be the quietest of the bunch, to say the least.
And that's an interesting one. If people talk about Ramsey as a legend, because then you start to realise, actually, we say legend as one big category, right? But then you actually realise there's categories of legend.
Yeah.
And is Aaron Ramsey in the same category as Tony Adams? Clearly not, right? So I think it kind of brings it into focus in terms of what we're talking about when we really, really say legend, because like many people say, it's very overused.
Yeah. Well, look at the word GOAT now, or the greatest of all time. When I was growing up, there was literally one GOAT in hip hop, one footballer that would be labelled or free to have a debate with. Now, literally, every musician's a GOAT, every footballer's a GOAT, every young player coming up's a GOAT, and it's just diluted the whole legend / greatest of all time argument. But going back to that season, it could have been very different. And 19 assists, we were second in the league. We finished, obviously, Leicester winning it left a sour taste, because you can't really look at that season and think, well, it was a good season, because in reality we should have won the league.
Opportunity,
and then following that, it's a mix of mismanagement at the club, panic contracts, allowing contracts to run down, poor progressive management in terms of the future at Arsenal Football Club following that second place finish. Didn't we just get Czech after that? I think that was the summer we just got Czech. No, actually, that was the summer we bought Xhaka and Mustafi. That was the summer we actually tried to spend a bit of money in comparison to usual, and made big mistakes that are still costing us now. So Ozil's legacy, if I'm going to rate it out of 10, you said 7. I'm going to have to say my first initial is 5, but I think 6, being 4 FA Cups, would be fair. I expected so much when he came, and it doesn't all rest on his shoulders, Mo. It rests on the club, because when he came, I thought the whole club's changing direction, and it didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say 6. I think a 5/6 would be fair.
Okay. Well, do you know what? I find it interesting that I think no matter where you go in life, you, like, whether it's me or you, whoever it is, and in whatever kind of context you arrive in, right? Either you change the culture or the culture changes you. You know, we're not talking about going on holiday with your mates. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're talking about things that matter. Either you change the culture or the culture changes you. And I felt like when Ozil came, he was exposed to a different sort of culture. And it was a culture of more expectation and a more kind of like necessity of success. And eventually I feel like the culture at Arsenal changed him. Even Walcott, I didn't bother. You know, sometimes I see some quotes from an interview and I think I'm not even going to give it time of day because I know that it's going to annoy me. And this was Theo Walcott talking to TalkSport.
Yeah.
And TalkSport, like for me, you know, I just don't bother listening to them because, you know, it depends. Not all of the contributors on there, but the Adrian Durhams, you know, I just kind of feel like if you're one of these people that still listen to him, still get riled up by him and call in and stuff, you're, unfortunately, I don't mean this to be like too rude, but you're unfortunately one of the dim-witted people he monetizes, basically. You know, if you don't know what he's doing and you can't be wise enough to kind of say, no, I'm not going to fall into that trap, no matter how tempting it is, then you are one of those dim-witted people that is his target market. So when I saw that Theo Walcott interview and he was talking about the fact that, you know, Arsenal were a bit too nice and this sort of thing, it just really made me think, yeah, that culture at Arsenal changes some players. And you see certain players go from a club to another club and become beasts. And at Arsenal, I think sometimes maybe you see it go the other way, where they kind of soften a little bit. And I just wonder to myself sometimes, like someone like Hector Bellerin, right? He had the world at his feet. And I still think he's fine. Like I've got, you know, I like the guy. I think he's good enough. But I just wonder, would he deep down be happy if he could go back to being an 18-year-old and looking at himself today? Would he be happy with his progression and the way he is? And I always look at people like Gareth Bale and I think to myself, when he left Tottenham and went to Real Madrid, look at him, look at the change in him physically and everything. Obviously, it didn't work out for him because he didn't learn Spanish and he liked golf. But ultimately, you saw a massive change. And yeah, I just feel like there was a time at Arsenal when the culture would change the people who would come in. And that was, you know, obviously the great Invincible team or the great back four. Oh, Fulham have just taken the lead against United.
That's what I like to hear.
Yes, get in there.
Don't tell me VAR and let's just keep it at that.
Nah, Wan-Bissaka, all he can do is tackle. He's kept Lookman onside. He's way behind the line. He's kept Lookman onside. And Pogba has got his arm up in the middle, I think it is. Brilliant. Lovely. 1-0. We'll see what happens.
What's that, 22 minutes in? It started at 8, right?
No, 5 minutes in.
Oh, it's only 5. Oh, it started at quarter past. Okay.
When you watch his goal back, the amount of time Lookman has got in the area, he's got the ball, he's looked up to see if he can square it. No one's there, puts it in himself. It's just unbelievably bad defending. But anyway, so yeah, my point is, you know, culture changes certain people. And at Arsenal, I think that's what happened to Mesut Ozil. And when you contrast that with Alexis Sanchez to me was one of those very special, unique players where his focus and his desire to win was so strong that no culture could ever change him. Yeah. And instead, what did you get? You got players kind of complaining about him sort of being like the odd one out because he was just so desperate to win. And one left, one signed. And I don't think that's a massive coincidence.
No, it's not. And that's the panic that Arsenal put upon themselves. You can't put that at Sanchez or Ozil's door, you know, the contract situations. We've messed up for many years, even down to the last couple, even down to now with Balogun, for example. You know, every 6 months, there seems to be a situation where we look at it and think, what are you guys doing? Right now, it's Balogun. 6 months ago, it was Willian and Louise. And, you know, 6 months before that, whoever it was in January, well, I guess it's Cedric in January last year, because although he played well the other day, and he did play very well, it was the first, you know, he hasn't been given many opportunities, but it's the first performance that's opened my eyes a little bit to maybe he deserves an opportunity. So hopefully we get the mismanagement of contracts right. And one thing I just want to end on with Ozil is we all know Ozil's a good role model in life in terms of the man he is. Yeah. Was he a bad role model for players at the club in terms of footballing wise? Because the reason I ask that is Guendouzi, closely linked to Ozil, Kolasinac, Mustafi, Xhaka, and the common denominator here is players that are letting us down. Maybe not Guendouzi as much. And now it seems that Ozil decided it's time to go. You know, Kolasinac is out. Mustafi's open to it in 6 months. It seems like it's all unraveling now. Is there any was there a faction in there? Do you believe there was that group in there, or do you believe it's just, the mismanagement that's caused it?
I believe there was. I believe there was something going on in the dressing room, and I think that was reflected in the performances. Yeah. I really, really do, because it didn't make sense to me. It didn't look like the players were not playing for the manager. But, in football at the top level, honestly, you take your foot off the pedal just a few percent is all it takes. And then that's it. Other teams that are fully committed will just be better than you, because, when I was growing up, I used to remember that, I used to hear about boardroom disputes in certain clubs. And I used to view it as very separate to what happens on the pitch. Yeah. And then you used to see all this chat about some boardroom issues or whatever. And then you used to see this team start performing really, really badly on the pitch. And I just never used to get it. I just thought it's really strange. But ultimately, I think that's what it is. It's when there's not that everyone rowing in the same direction and a bit of sort of frustration and that sort of thing, it does translate to the pitch. So when we were performing so badly that it was almost unexplainable, that's when I was convinced that, yeah, there is something to it. And I think Mesut Ozil was quite a popular person in the dressing room. Yeah. It's hard to know exactly with who, because let's say, for example, Alexander Lacazette and Pierre Aubameyang, they fighting over the number 10 shirt straight away. There didn't really seem to be that much sentiment there, did there?
No.
Whilst on the other hand, Mustafi, Sokratis, Guendouzi, as you mentioned, there seemed to be a lot of sentiment, from them. And I do think, yeah, with certain players, there would have been a bit of upset, And look, let's be honest, right? Look, if you and I are doing something with a few other people, if we go down into a business venture or start doing something new with other people, and all of a sudden I kind of feel like you're being marginalized, you're being treated like crap, it will affect me. And so I think it's completely normal to do that. If I'm an ally of yours, if I regard you as a friend and I think to myself, actually, no, I'm in Turkish's corner, then I won't be exactly the same. It will make me less motivated or whatever. And I think we did see that.
Yeah. And finally, I know it's been discussed on Twitter a lot. Did you have any comments to make on Mustafi's, farewell? I know a lot of people, it rubbed people up the wrong way, but...
Well, when he said that the team couldn't be there for you. Sorry for the team couldn't be there for you.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm kind of baffled as to why I would even have an issue. Why would anyone have an issue with that?
That's kind of what I thought, to be honest. I didn't really take much from it. And because Mustafi's gone in 6 months, and because Mustafi is one of them players that let Ozil down, I think that he's actually owning up in a sense to being part of the problem. But, it is what it is with the players. And do you think that the lack of an announcement and all the Ozil stuff with the Istanbul trip, the airplane live and all of that, disrespect there? Or do you think the way he's been treated, the club deserve no respect? And it's hard.
Yeah, I do agree with what you said there. I don't think the club have really put themselves in a position whether they can start now demanding respect. And also, let's not forget, at that point, his head is checked out. So since he's been an Arsenal player and there's not a move for him to, post about whatever, he's been very, very professional. Even if you don't like the guy, you can see that, I get that his PR has been great and you can kind of say, oh, he's doing this for this reason or whatever, but on face value, his professionalism has been on point. But now he's not thinking about Arsenal, thinking about Fenerbahce. So all of this stuff, that's because he's a very, very high profile player. And for Fenerbahce, this is probably the biggest signing in their history. So I think we've got to sometimes maybe look at it from the other angle and kind of see that there's got to be all the fanfare about a signing of one of the greatest, Turkish origin players of all time joining a Turkish team. Yeah. There's got to be that fanfare. So no, I don't mind it. This isn't like Koscielny when he went and the Arsenal shirt thing. It's not like that. I mean, I don't know if Mesut Ozil's going to go and do something as stupid as that or annoying as that. I doubt it. But no, I don't think there's any disrespect from what he did personally.
Funnily enough, he's probably the highest profile player Arsenal have signed, let alone Fenerbahce.
That's true, yeah.
To be honest, and look at the scenes. Look at the scenes when we was linked to him on Sky Sports.
Yeah, man.
He even drew me out to buy merchandise and put his name on the back. But ever since then, it's been difficult to do the same since. Brad, there's a super chat here regarding, the January window, and we might as well move on from Ozil now.
Yeah.
Opinions on the rumors around Odegaard and, the young Norwegian, I think he is.
Yeah. So look, I have to admit, I've never been fully convinced by Odegaard.
Yeah.
I just haven't. And but I've been surprised at the reaction on social media, because I don't know about you, but for me, from what I've seen, it's generally positive. Like, people seem to want him.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ollie B. It's from a place called Shahkar, Shahkar. So check him out. He's talking about my art.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I haven't ever been convinced. But what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to pull up his stats, right? His career stats, because
He's only played like a handful of games. I've done a bit of like background research already. He signed for Real 2015, so that was when all the hype was, because I remember the hype around him. He's 22 now, so that would have made him 17, then maybe 16, because he just turned 22. Yeah. And since then, it looks like he's played a handful of games for Real and a handful of games for other clubs. He hasn't played over 30 for any club. He's 22 years of age. Real haven't been great in the last couple of years. It sounds like a Ceballos situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Look, I'm trying to look at it and say he played 18-19. He played 31 games for Vitesse Arnhem in the Dutch league.
Okay.
8 goals, 11 assists. Now, that's not a bad return. You want double-digit return in terms of goals from your midfielders or whatever. We don't really have enough midfielders that get goals.
Yeah, good age as well. Yeah.
Yeah, 11 assists. That's not too bad. Then in 1920, then he had 1920, he played 31 games for Real Sociedad in La Liga. And he's got, so you can say, a bit of a harder league, 4 goals, 6 assists.
Okay. That was the year after?
Well, then 2021, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't. He's played 7 games for Real Madrid in La Liga. And obviously, I can't see the number of minutes. I'm guessing a lot of these would have been subs. But no goals, no assists so far this season. Now, I don't know. It's just one of those ones where I don't see a track record there that makes me think like, oh, I'm going to get excited about this signing. Everyone was excited about him when he first hit the scene because he was such a big prospect, so much hype around him. But he's never seemed to have pushed on. And I just think to myself, well, why would I kind of pin my hopes on him? Why would I get so excited about him?
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know. Do you know any more about him?
Does it give you a hint of desperation, a hint of lack of planning, a hint of panic, maybe, or to appease fans? I feel like all these reasons are above actual, like you said, football in substance, because there has been nothing to say or give us hope that he can come here for 6 months at his age with his injury problem. Because I believe he came back from injury in December the last time.
I really don't know about that. But just trying to look at it more deeply, when he's at Real Sociedad, they finished 6th. So, that's in a fairly decent team, and he's got the 4 goals and 6 assists. I'd expect, I don't know, I'd expect more, personally. We've seen the impact Emil Smith-Rowe has had so quickly, for example. Yeah. I'd expect more in a team in Spain finishing 6th, But I don't know, look, maybe he is the answer. I think technically, yes. When I've watched him play, yes, he's very good, but that's a given anyway, because you're not going to go and play for Real Madrid if you haven't got something about you. But to come to England, and as you mentioned, for 6 months in such a physical league and turn it on straight away and make a difference straight away, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, it's not with him. It doesn't seem like it's a short-term project next for him. It needs to be like a club that's going to give him the time of day to improve and develop and find his place. I'm not sure what, if anything, we can get out of him for 6 months. And when you look at our last few January loan signings, I don't think any has worked out. Like we said with Cedric earlier, that being a key example. Sokratis has just left the club. Yeah. Any thoughts? One thing about Sokratis is I give him a lot of credit. I don't put any criticism towards him in the way it's turned out at Arsenal. I think he hasn't been here long enough for me to say a lot of it is down to him as a player. Handled himself very well. He's quiet on social media. He just wants to play football. He wanted to go in the summer. It didn't happen, and now he's gone. What's your thoughts, Mo?
Yeah, I mean, I like the guy, no animosity to him. And when we actually signed him, I was happy because I wanted a physical defender. Ultimately, he is an aging defender, and you can have a few of them in your squad. I think he's gone at the right time. So I wish him all the best. But one thing that I do really like him for is that a couple of reporters you might have seen on social media, on Twitter today, actually, they came out and said that in the mixed zone, that's the mixed zone between players and reporters after games, when Arsenal lose, no one wanted to chat.
Yeah.
And he was one person that always stood up and always was saying like, yeah, fine, I'll talk. And to me, that speaks volumes about a man personally.
Yeah.
And, you know, probably the most guilty party of this is our current club captain. And as much as I love him for his goals and, you know, what he does on the pitch, I honestly, like, he needs to step up more when things aren't going his way. When he scores, he'll come out and he'll talk, and you'll see on his Insta, his story is like as long as your arm.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't go his way, it's like, come on, man. Like, it's so extreme, it's so polarized that you notice it. If it was like a bit more mild and thing goes well, you'd kind of not notice it as much. But I don't like that extreme. I think especially as club captain, that's why I'm putting that onus on you to kind of come out and say, listen, I'm going to face up when it doesn't go well. And if any player is going to face up and have some goodwill, it's going to be him because of how well he's done. So I do rate Sokratis for that and wish him all the best.
100%. I read that as well. I think it was Charles Watts that tweeted that. And again, a lot of people try to dismiss it as if that's one of the only things he gets credit for at the club, then it just shows what his, you know, legacy is at the club in 2.5 years. But I've seen very little ownership from, you know, not only players, but everyone at the club. So for Sokratis to be one that does own problems, you know, Tierney being another, because during that rough patch we had, I was seeing, you know, Maitland-Niles come out for press conferences in the Europa League, Joe Willock coming out. Tierney would come out in the big ones, you know, on Sky Sports and in the Premier League. And I respect that. This is why we see him as a captain. Oba, I'm surprised because earlier today or yesterday, he's actually released an interview with Sky Sports. And I'm thinking to myself, well, just as you've, you know, turned that corner, and I'm not saying it was recorded after the 2 goals against Newcastle. At least a little interview. I haven't watched it yet, but it seems like one based around, you know, the rough patch and turning it around. And I just think, where was you 6 weeks ago when I look at you as one of the only people in this team that I've got some respect for in terms of when you talk, I'll listen. If you talk some sense, if you don't, you know, banter's all good and well when you're winning. The jokes are all good and well when you're performing at least to the level we expect, if not more. But when it's time to get serious, that's where Oba lets us down, I think. And that's where Tierney is someone that I believe will stand up. I forgot if I asked you, but do you see Tierney as the long-term captain? Or
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I really, really love the guy, man. You know, at one point I looked at the team. Cavani
says it all.
Fulham keepers completely messed it up. Anyway, so at one point I looked at the team and I thought to myself, who in this team do I really like? You know, like who's kind of making me like respect them and think, yeah, you're really standing up. But Tierney, no matter how bad it gets, I just feel like it's very hard to doubt him in that respect because he always does stand up. He gives it his all. He's, you know, literally rolls his sleeves up in a way. Do you know what I mean? He just gets on with it. And I really like that about him. And I certainly see him as a captain, Before we move on to Richard Garlick, and we're on the January transfer window, what do you want to see out of the next 11 days? Are you happy with what you've seen so far? And that's Kolasinac, Ozil and Sokratis out of the door. And what do you expect to see in the next 10, 11 days, if anything? I am happy about that. If we're not going to use the players, we've got such a massive squad. I think that's one thing that people forget, how big our squad is. So it was absolutely necessary. And you know, what I'd like us to do is, I've said it before, attacking midfielder and backup keeper, for me, are the 2 really important ones because we're 1 injury in both of those positions away from, I think, really struggling. Because if Emile Smith-Rowe gets injured, I feel like we've already got a reliance on him. He's so impactful in the middle there. And if Leno gets injured, my God, who trusts Runnison?
Big problems there because,
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, what do we prioritize? But you're going to go into it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's other positions that we have to go and add to, but we do need those. And look, I as well was kind of saying that for me, the jury's still out on Mikel Arteta. I don't think he's out of the woods, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Liverpool haven't won in 4 games. If Arsenal go and do that again, all that pressure is going to be right back on him. We have not turned a corner. We're still like, mid-table. Yeah. So we've got to undo all the bad work and then actually, you know, do some more good work to get us in like a position that we actually want to be in. There's still a long way to go. So the jury's still out on him. And for that reason, I wonder if the board are kind of saying, do we really feel comfortable in completely backing him?
Okay, yeah.
And that's why I kind of feel like loan deals. If I was, one rung above the ladder, head of Arteta, I'd be saying, do you know what? I'm just going to give you loan deals right now until I really, really know whether you're here long term or not. Because
so out of the names that's been touted, Odegaard, Isco, Oscar, even I've heard, and there's another name in terms of a loan. Who was it? Isco, Odegaard, Oscar. It was a buy. I like you said, I don't think in January we're going to be able to buy, whether that's because of a lack of trust in Arteta or a lack of finances. Who knows? But they got both reasons to fall back on. Who would you want to see if it is a loan signing? I'm assuming it's creative, or am I mistaken?
Well, look, I'd say probably Isco. If I had to choose someone, and I've just put up his stats here. So. For Real Madrid, I mean, I don't know what's going on with him and Real Madrid at the moment, like what his current situation is in terms of how favoured he is or not. But yeah, I mean, 86 goals and 462 senior appearances. At least you know that, every other game will, every so often he'll get you a goal. The thing is, when we signed Dani Ceballos, and a lot of people raved about him, I made the point then that, he's not a goal-scoring midfielder. He's only had a handful of senior games, never mind actually contributing with goals. And that's the thing that I think we really need to add to the team. I think we have done that with Saka, with Emile Smith-Rowe, but midfielders contributing to goals and taking the reliance off Aubameyang and Lacazette, because when they weren't firing, we were hopeless. That's what I want to see. And I guess I'd have to say, out of the names you've mentioned, it'd probably be Isco. When we're talking about Oscar, we're talking about ex-Chelsea.
Again.
Who went off to China.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Chelsea and China, let's not buy stuff from there right now, because
it's not the right avenue, I believe. And I'm saying that because I actually haven't seen him in years, but I rated Oscar as a player. He was different class at times, and I thought he was going to have an amazing career. But like you said, going to China from Chelsea at that age, it pretty much shows the mentality and character, and that's a big thing. That's a big thing you need to change at the club.
For sure. And I just think that, when I say, don't buy from China, I mean, look at the competitiveness of the league that he's going to be playing in right now. I don't think that we can expect him come and all of a sudden make a massive impact on loan at Arsenal, coming from, the Chinese league. So, I wouldn't do that. And so for me, it would probably be Isco out of the three. How about you?
Out of the three, I'd probably agree with you. I'd say Isco's got the most about him that I trust for 6 months, If you're telling me someone for the next couple of years, I guess then you look at Odegaard's age and ceiling, and you might take a punt. But I think even then, Isco for me, 6 months, no option to buy. Take him if he's fit enough to get going straight away. I don't want him to come in and hear 3-4 weeks of training. We need him in rotation with Emile. Hopefully he can pass on some of his technical ability, because Isco is a good player. It just hasn't worked out for him for one reason or another at Real.
And he's played 11 games this season. So, he's getting game time. I don't know how many minutes again, but still, I just think from what I've seen in terms of track record, watching football for, however many years, Isco's one of those players that when I've watched him play, I kind of think, there's one hell of a player there. I do actually rate him technically and what I've seen him do on a pitch. So on that basis, it'd have to be him. He comes out on top.
Yeah, 100%. So let's move on. We're over half an hour in. There's over 500 people in the chat, in the live. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Continue giving us your thoughts and questions, and I'll continue going through them. And like I said, in between convo, I will try and get some of your comments out there. Mo, Richard Garlick, obviously you said earlier you don't know much about him.
No, I don't.
What do you think about the appointment itself? It's obviously director of operations. He replaces Farmy, whatever his name was. It's about law, legality, and contracts.
I really have no idea. I don't know about his track record. He was with the Premier League though, right?
Yeah, so he was with the Premier League since 2018, and before that, from 2010 to 2018, he was with West Brom. And I just want to tell you something. And obviously, what I'm going to tell you is a bit tongue-in-cheek because there's more to it. But he joined West Brom 2010. They got promoted that year. He left West Brom in 2018. They got relegated that year.
Right.
Now, that's tongue in cheek, because on the cusp of it, you think to yourself, wow, he joined them when they was on the up. He left them when they was on the down. He did, in his first few years, move them from, I think, 11th, 10th, 8th. And not him, but him as part of the team. And from there, it went downhill. And there must be something about him if the Premier League stepped in when West Brom got relegated.
I mean, you know, I don't know. The thing is, for me, I think a lot of these things, right, about your contacts book, what level of influence you have in the game, who you know, and that sort of thing. So I hope maybe with his time at the Premier League, he's got, you know, that about him. They used to say that about David Dean, who was so massively influential for us, that, you know, he had the biggest contacts book in football. So I really don't know about him, but, you know, we'll give him a chance like we always do. Someone comes in, hopefully he'll do really good work. And, you know, we won't have rumours of him missing flights like Dick Law and that sort of nonsense that we've heard in the past from some of our...
Well, look, this is who we've got now. Dick Garlick, as Chris reminds us.
Yeah, Dick Garlick, who's actually a lawyer. They say he's a solicitor. So kind of Dick Law.
Oh yeah, isn't it? Dick of law, mate. That's what it comes down as. But what was I going to say? So I think it's a silly question to ask, but I'll ask it. Is it a necessary appointment in terms of the role itself, contracts, law, legality?
Well, I don't know if he'll be doing that role for us. You know, he's not coming in as head of, you know, a legal department, because it says that he's coming in as head football operations. Yeah. The fact that he's, you know, what does it say here? The fact that he's a qualified solicitor and a sports law specialist, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily think you'd need that as your CV to be head of football operations. Yeah. So it's a bit. Ultimately, I think it's necessary to rebuild that structure. When Arsene Wenger was at the club, a lot of people felt that there's too much power that he holds, and we went and put a structure in. Since Wenger's left, we've now almost tried to replicate that with Mikel Arteta, making him manager rather than coach, and then we've chipped away at the team that we put in place. And so I'm not really sure where it lies anymore, but I personally think let Arteta be a coach. That's a hard enough job as it is, especially with his level of inexperience, never mind asking him to be the actual manager as such.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to 2.5 years ago now, but 2 summer windows ago when Raul came in and Raul and Vina had that interview, and they told us that no players will go into their last 2 years of their contracts. And lo and behold, Ozil and Aubameyang, our 2 biggest names, you know, go into their last 2 years. On top of that, there was a couple other players. And I look at this today, and I think to myself, well, not today, but over the past few weeks, and I think to myself, I need to see more action. And that's something I've always called for. So Kolasinac, Ozil, Sokratis, and hopefully a couple more, bringing in someone that's got that background in law and contracts in particular. Although I agree with you, that role seems like it means more than just that. So it'll be interesting to see what he does bring. And that Dean FA link was always beneficial for us. So hopefully there's something there. And I just think to myself that I'm going to take this as a positive that they've brought him in. Now, it could turn out to be a negative 2 years down the line, because time will tell what he brings, whether he tightens screws a bit more or whether he does stuff that opens up gaps for us to take advantage of. You look at Balogun now, we mentioned it, and that's why I wanted to get back into it. In the summer, we had the Luiz contract renewal, Willian coming in on a free. So far, last January, we had, wasn't it Saka contract running down, and he signed it just before COVID or something along those lines.
I can't remember, man.
Over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of problems with contracts and mismanagement again. And you already know more that we can go back to 5-10 years ago and find the same problem.
So many examples. Yeah, it's an interesting one. You know, talking about contracts, I'm seeing and hearing things now about Arsenal offering Smith Rowe a new contract, and the rumoured number is 40 grand a week. Yeah. And I just think to myself, like, it's interesting because Smith Rowe, obviously more of a first team track record than Balogun.
Yeah.
But the rumours, and again, they are just rumours. We don't know if these are true or not. Rumours are around Balogun that he wants 100 grand a week.
Yeah.
And I just think that, it's quite interesting. You know, when you're talking about established first teamers, I feel like you've got a lot of other benchmarks to compare. Yeah. We can look at someone like Aubameyang and look at some of the top performers at other teams, and you kind of know what they're on, and you can say, yeah, he can ask for this, that, whatever, and it's easier. But when it comes to these youth players, it's hard to know, I think, for us as fans to really put our finger on what that number should be.
Yeah,
what do you think is a fair amount for Balogun? What do you think is a fair amount for ESR if you were their agent?
I think right now ESR 40, 50K is fair, but in my opinion, they're going to be looking at it in a way where 40, 50K will sign a 4 or 5 year contract, but in 2 years, let's review it. And that's beneficial for the club too. The club need to start moving with 3 years left of a contract. That's how you work in modern day football. With 3 years left of the contract is the peak value of that player. Any player you have with 3 years left is peak value. If they're performing and they've got 3 years, you can get the most. That's when you sort out the contract. So I think 40, 50K for Emil is fair. Balogun, on the other hand, I'm going to be honest, as much what I know about him, I wouldn't give him more than 20, 25K, especially if Emil's getting that. If you give Emil 40, let's say 50K now, and you even give Balogun 60, which is the lower end of the rumored asking price. If you give him 60, Emil will turn around in 6 to 12 months and be like, well, look at what I'm doing. This guy ain't even done much yet. It's time to negotiate, because clubs are sniffing around. It's modern day football. So I think 40, 50 is fair for Emil. And I think 20, 25 is fair for Balogun.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I look from a Smith Rowe point of view, and I think, he's 20 years old right now, yeah? If you sign a 4-year deal at 50 grand a week or 40 grand a week, you're going into your 24th year, when you're 24 years old, and you're earning 40 grand a week. And I think in modern day football, that's nothing.
Yeah, true.
And I don't know, I almost feel like these young players, they've become so important to us, but they could almost I feel like they've got a lot of negotiating power. I personally would be very fearful if I was the club of losing Smith Rowe on a free.
Yeah.
And I would hate that, because I love the guy. And also, what I do like about a lot of the younger generation, like Saka and Smith Rowe, they seem like really humble, down-to-earth guys, They don't seem like they're out to just, hold the club to ransom. I really, really rate that. Even on their Instagram and all that sort of stuff, they're always, a lot of them are kind of like talking about God and that sort of stuff. They're not getting too arrogant with it. But I do think, their agents, this is an agent's job, right? They'll be turning around to them and saying, listen, do you think Arsenal will let you go on a free? What do you think fans' reaction will be if Arsenal end up seeing you leave on a free? And what's Emil Smith Rowe's value now if we had to put him out in the transfer market?
That's true. How many? What year does his contract end right now?
I don't know. But given that there's already talk of renewing it, I'm guessing it's less than 2 years. But I don't know if anyone in the chat can tell us. I really don't know.
And do you remember what Saka got by any chance when he re-signed his contract?
No, I can't remember.
It says long-term contract on Arsenal's website. Not Arsenal's website. Yeah, it says long-term contract, but there's no numbers there. It's all probably rumors. But you're right. When you say 40K going into your 23s, 24s, that's unheard of. Even 21s nowadays is unheard of, especially if you're playing week in, week out at a big six club, a club that makes the money that Arsenal makes. So it's a touchy one. And you've got to start looking into these things. And maybe this is what Richard Garlick can help with, where you might say 50K now, 20% increase in the summer, 25% increase next year, and maybe a review comes into place and all this stuff. You got to start. Listen, players and agents, what's happened over the years is agents have come in to make sure they get the best for their players and make sure they get a little on top too. And they've utilized the law, the legal side of it. They've utilized information, public information about clubs, incoming expenditure, and they've utilized that. Now the clubs have to utilize the same things contractual wise. They have to put into contracts the same thing that agents put into contracts for their like a release clause, for example. A lot of clubs in England don't put that, but sometimes you've got to protect your investment. I don't see why you wouldn't put like 100 million release clause on someone when you're seeing other clubs do it. And sometimes you might nick a quick win with someone breaking that release clause. And I think hopefully Richard Garlick can be innovative with the way he approaches, because it needs it.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. It's interesting. I think that looking at all these contracts or whatever, hopefully the club do get them all wrapped up and the players' agents aren't going to be too troublesome. But I do think it will be an interesting, like, kind of watch this space, because as the impact of Smith Rowe continues to grow in this team, you know, we'll be starting to talk, you know, if it carries on like this, we'll be talking about him as a 30, 40, 50 million pound player, whatever, you know, value you want to, you know, apply to it. If he has a storming season like he started, if it goes on like that, whatever value it is, then you'll start looking around and start saying, well, you know, other players at this valuation, what are they on? And then it could become quite difficult. But what I'm nervous about is losing Balogun. But on the other hand, I'm nervous about setting the precedent that we did with Mesut Ozil with Balogun, you know, because Mesut Ozil applied to the first team squad. Other people knew what he was on. And people like Aubameyang, obviously they're going to want to be top earners, or they'll say, is my influence not as great as Mesut Ozil's? Am I not as consistent? Don't I deserve that? And obviously some of it does come down to profile and the other more annoying parts of the modern game. But if we were to offer 100 grand to Balogun, then that almost sets like a benchmark for, I think, other youth players to hold the club to ransom. So we've got to deal with it all very carefully. I just really hope that, as you're saying, Mr. Garlick can come in and somehow figure this out.
Let's hope so. Greg says the club's slowly moving in the right direction, but a long way to go. So let's back the manager, but not the owner. And True says Garlick made errors with transfers at West Brom. He left as soon as they got relegated. With the Premier League, he was one of those responsible for the pay-per-view. That's great news. VAR controversies and the low refereeing standard, which doesn't sound good. But this one here is funny from Chris. Big up, Chris, with the super chat. Mo was set up on AFTV picks. I did watch it. I was watching it live. I was laughing. Pippa definitely got the easier questions. Pippa, what ground prior to Emirates did Arsenal play? Mo, what age is Emil Smith-Rowe's stepdad twice removed?
But do you know what makes me laugh on that, yeah? Robbie, honestly, he should have given it to me because I'd already given him the last answer.
Yeah.
I already had that in the bag. But anyway, listen, all of this chat about Robbie being minted, he's still a little cheapskate. Look at this, £200 and he's not letting it go.
He couldn't let a little few seconds slide.
Exactly.
And the funny thing is, you know, in that 30 seconds, you had to accommodate the time that he takes to ask the question. So you're really only getting about 17, 18 seconds to answer the question. It's all mad, but it is what it is. I'm sure you'll get another chance at it sooner or later anyway. S. Shah says 2 of the realist. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, man. I really do. Hopefully we can keep on bringing you this every couple of weeks, but you know, there's big things around the corner for Mo and a big year ahead for us. So hopefully we can keep it consistent. 350k for a 31. Well, might as well touch on that now. Do you think we're going to regret Auba's contract? Do you think we're already regretting it? What's your opinions on it overall?
I think it had to be done. It just really had to be done because he's so important to Arsenal, making them tick. His goals are so crucial. And also, I always make this point, right? There's a lot of footballers on this planet, but there are not a lot of men walking the earth that can go and score 30 goals, 25 goals in the top 5 leagues in Europe. There's honestly just a handful of men walking this earth. They are so rare in supply that you just have to keep them when you get them. And that's why I kind of feel like there's no point replacing those players. Other players can come in and do a job in midfield and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. You look at someone like El Neni. He's a very, very good, tidy passer of the ball. He can be a very good squad player for a numerous amount of Premier League teams. But someone like Aubameyang, very, very rare. So we had to keep him. And I don't think we'll regret it because I still expect him to retain that output.
Do you let me play devil's advocate here, because do you think around the Ozil contract time, just on the verge of Sanchez leaving to Man United, you could have said the same thing about offering Ozil and saying we had to do it? Because I think I felt the same around that time in what the club done to themselves.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, so it can be a situation where they had to do it, but we can look back in 2 years and say, what the fuck have they done? Pardon my language.
But do you know what? It comes down to character. You know, I feel like, let's say, I don't know, a Kevin De Bruyne, right? I don't honestly expect that at the end of his career, or like when he's like, you know, in fact, he is 30, isn't he? Kevin De Bruyne. I don't. It's
bit younger, but he's getting there.
Let's have a look. KDB. Let's have a look. But,
29. Yeah, he's 30 in June.
Yeah, all right, cool. So let's say, for example, he signs a new contract in June when he's 30. I don't get the impression from him that he'll ever take his foot off the gas. I don't ever get that vibe from him. He just seems like a consummate professional. And I think with Mesut Ozil, I don't feel like he retained the hunger. And I've said this in the past as well, that he won a lot in his career, maybe too much, too soon. And then also you go on that huge incline, you go and play for Real Madrid, you win the World Cup with Germany, all of that sort of stuff. And then when you join Arsenal for Real Madrid, as much as I hate to admit it, it's a step down. So do you retain that hunger, that desire? Do you feel that pressure to prove yourself? Maybe not. And with Aubameyang, I just wonder, if you look at the personality type and you think to yourself, no, he's going to carry on, he's always going to have that bit between his teeth, then fine, give him the contract. But if you feel like it could follow the same pattern to Mesut Ozil, then maybe you have to be a bit wary. I hope the club looked at that, and obviously they will know him more deeply than I will. And I hope that they would have looked at that and thought, no, the risk is not there with him, but potentially it was there with Ozil. I would have thought the risk is not there with Alexis Sanchez, but ultimately look how he's dropped off anyway. So sometimes it's going to be a really, really tough call.
We could have signed both of them up to 350 and 250k contracts, and they both could have ended up the way they ended up, and then we would have been doomed.
But it's as you say, the club put himself in a position where we just had to, otherwise it'd be riots.
Yeah, 100%. And I was going to say something, but it's just slipped my mind regarding Oba. 29-30. We'll just get into it because Taylor just reminded me about this one. Sanchez, Ramsey. This is the one we spoke about. 190 million received, 0 received back. And it's just, it says it as it is. And that's been a big problem. And that's something we have to fix now. So on one hand, I'm saying we need to spend money. But on the other hand, I know that it needs to be spent shrewdly. I'm not asking for 70s and 100s all over the gaff. I'm asking them to be shrewd, to care about the football inside for once, do the necessary due diligence in the youth academy world, do what you need to do. I believe that Chelsea, to count, is it Chelsea? One club in the Premier League, one of the big six, they've opened up a relationship with a few clubs, and they've done something to counter this whole new Brexit stuff that we can't sign young European players under 18. So they've I think it is Chelsea that have kicked up the partnerships in England to make sure they get the best young English talent.
Interesting.
And Chelsea over the years have done shrewd things in terms of the amount of players they send out on loan. Yeah. They make money off them. They win titles with some of them. And it's just a nicely oiled machine. Let's see what the people are saying. Make sure you guys hit the like button. And as you can see, that's the socials below us. You know mine already, Turkish LDN and Mo's Arsenal, Mo8 on both Instagram and on Twitter. So let me just go through some of these. Get your questions and get your thoughts in now, people. We've got about 5-10 minutes left max. We'll get through some of them.
Please. I was just watching this United-Fulham game. Still 1-1 coming up to half-time.
1-1 coming up to half. Oh, yeah. I'm going to catch the second half then. Well, we'll both catch the second half properly anyway. So someone else, what interview I got that thumbnail from again. Listen, like Mo said, you could pretty much just search Turkish AFTV interview and a lot of mine will have that face. I guess it looks different because it's a hood on and not a cap. That's the big difference.
Turkish, I want to know who you want to sign in the January transfer window, and also everyone watching as well in the chat, because I've said, look, attacking midfielder and reserve keeper or second choice keeper. What about everyone else? And what about you, Turkish?
Ideally, in an ideal world, 2 midfielders. One next to Partey and one in front, rotating with Emil now. When I was going into December, before they said the outgoings thing, I said Buendia and Basuma is the players I'd like, or the profile of players we need at the very least. Go for someone along those. And by that, I mean, you don't go from Aouar to Partey. They're different profiles. You go from Aouar to another similar profile, but you didn't. You indicated that we need an Aouar, and you indicated that we need a Partey. So Basuma to partner Partey, and also in his absence, at least we have someone there, and Buendia. That would have been perfect, but at the same time, I try and maintain reality, and I understand that Arsenal are not going to spend money this window. One thing I'm annoyed with, Mo, actually. Yeah. We could have spent money, and this is what I posed to Lee Judges earlier on today, or was it yesterday? Mikhail says, big up, like your show, bless, thank you for the super chat, my guy. What did I say? So Eddie Nketiah was wanted by West Ham. West Ham just made 25 mil off Ajax for Haller. Surely we could have got 15, 20 for Eddie. Give that 15, 20 to Norwich or Brighton and say 15, 20, Joe Willock on top, and we'll give you 15, 20 in the summer. That makes about 30 million, 35 million plus a Joe Willock. And you spread it out and it makes it realistic, Mo. Do you think we need to start doing things like Maitland-Niles to Wolves in the summer, Eddie to West Ham a few weeks ago? Do you think we need to become a bit more ruthless? Because I think the Ozil, Kolasinac, Sokratis, that's easy work. They wanted to go now. It's these players that we are still umming and ahhing about as fans that...
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm one of those fans. You know, you're saying be ruthless and you're right, but a lot of people have given up on Eddie Nketiah, and I just haven't. And, you know, I have to admit it's because we signed him and he was playing for Arsenal under 23s. I know we signed him from Chelsea, so another Chelsea, but I haven't given up on him. You know, I've seen him play in the reserves and he's been prolific. I just haven't given up on him. I really haven't. And let's not forget when he was in the team this season, because if we look at the Arsenal opinion, the Arsenal fan base opinion of Nketiah, no one had given up on him at the start of the season. It's happened during this season. You know, that's what I feel anyway, that people have kind of lost patience with him. But Lacazette was crap. Aubameyang was crap whilst we were, whilst the whole team was crap. And Nketiah has been caught up in that. And for a lot of people, he's kind of been a bit of a scapegoat, easy to dismiss. But, you know, we're not saying that about Aubameyang and Lacazette. And I wonder if Nketiah comes back into the team now with a proper number 10 in the team, because what we'll be doing, we're putting in 50 crosses a game to Nketiah. That's not going to suit his strengths. I haven't given up on Nketiah yet. I feel like there's still a player in there. I'd like to see him come in and play for an Arsenal team with a proper number 10, with Saka and Smith-Rowe playing really well, Martinelli playing really well, and us actually creating chances and see how he does in that team. So I'm not giving up on him yet. Joe Willock, I feel like he's a decent squad player, and hopefully he can push on. Again, I've got a lot of love for these HLN boys, so I'm not able to be ruthless with them. Like, maybe that's a failing in my part there. And also, Maitland-Niles, I think he's a good squad player. And, you know, are we going to get a better versatile player to be on the bench for that right back or left back position? You know, are we really going to manage that? And if we get someone like marginally better, is it worth the transfer fees? Is it worth spending our resources on that position rather than sticking by one of our HLN boys? I don't know. I just struggle to be ruthless, man, with these ones.
Yeah, because I try and look like 6 to 12 months ahead. With Eddie, I feel like, okay, in the summer, I honestly believe we could have sold Eddie Sheffield United for 20, 25 mil. We moved to January, he's got 18 months left now. I think we could have got 15, 20 out of West Ham. Now, you have faith in him. I've lost that, but the next 6 months are vital because then he'll have a year left. Does he kick on in the next 6 months? I don't believe so, because we've got Lacazette now doing well. Oba's been put there. It's going to be a tough challenge for him. And if he doesn't, in the summer, he's back down to maybe 10, 15 mil. And the same with Maitland-Niles. I agree with you. He's been a good utility man for us. And if he's happy with that role, fine. That's fine. But I believe that he is going to want to move if it doesn't pick up in terms of experiences in it. And if we could have got 20 million from him from Wolves, I don't believe we will get that later down the line if his contract runs. The 6 to 12 months thing in 2022, Mo, Lacazette and Eddie contracts finished. I think you mentioned that earlier on. Their contracts are done. So I think that in the next 6 months, we have to make a decision on them both. And in all honesty, Danny Ings' contract is up in 2022 too. So there's things we can do where, you know, we can be smart in the next 6 months and upgrade the position without even spending much money.
Yeah, you know? And I have to admit, Turkish, you are right on that, because I'm looking at the names that you're talking about as people that I really wish the best for, HLN boys that I really want to succeed at Arsenal. But we have to look at their contract situations, and you have to realise, as you're articulating now, there's an optimum time to sell. If you sell with 1 year remaining, you're not going to get the value as you would if you sell with 2 or 3 years remaining. So, yeah, we have to sell at the right time. And listen, I might look back on this conversation in 2 years' time and think in hindsight I was wrong because they left on freeze, or we got no money, or we had to pay over the odds to keep them at the club in terms of their wages. So maybe you're right, but I just want to see them succeed at Arsenal.
Yeah.
That's my overriding feeling.
I might look back and say the same thing. The good thing about me and you is we have substance to what we say, and I can understand why you'd think that, and I think you can understand why I'd think that. So
for sure,
opinions change, and time changes opinions. A lot of people have answered your question. Buendia, Basuma, we've got one there. Awara and Basuma and Coutinho on loan, says Trill. We've got a few. Buendia and Basuma's Odegaard. Obviously, we've been linked with him.
Coutinho on loan's an interesting one.
Yeah, but I think Coleman's happy with him, no?
I don't know what he's. I don't know. I don't know how much game time he's getting. I would love to get Coutinho on loan. The guy gets goals.
I think it was an option in the summer. It was a rumored option because Coleman went in at Barca and he took him back from Bayern. I remember him playing, but I did think he picked up an injury earlier this season. I might be wrong. I know he started the season playing, but I'm not too sure. Sabitzer, Sabitzer. Look, I mentioned Danny Ings' contract running out in 2022. Sabitzer from RB Leipzig, his contract 2022, and he's a central midfielder, good profile. Depay, his contract's coming to an end this summer.
Yeah, I mean he's an interesting one, isn't he? Because he failed at United, but boy, he's been good at Lyon.
Zaha failed at United as well, and sometimes it can work, and I think that I'd rather take a player that's failed and managed to bounce back at an English club than a player that's won pretty much everything at Chelsea and then sign him up. The motivation's different. Depay will come here and he'll want to prove all the English fans wrong. But
you're right. And honestly, that will be a huge factor. If he comes back to this league, he will be so determined. And he is a player. Let's not get it twisted. You know, he's a good player. So, at that money, you can take the risk.
Yeah, and on the flip side, that's just reminded me about the other player I was thinking about to ask you about the attacking mids. Again, it's different to me. Eriksen left this league and it hasn't worked out for him at Inter, so he wants to come back, and that feels a bit too comfortable for me. I think Depay has worked out for him elsewhere, so he can just be comfortable there or go to another comfortable league. But if he's interested in coming back, that shows a good mentality for me. Eriksen,
I would take Eriksen.
Would that be the one ahead of Isco, or would you still go for Isco?
Oh, God, I don't know about ahead of Isco. I think Isco would probably still be the front runner for me. But if we signed Eriksen, I'd be happy with that. And I'll tell you why. Firstly, his talent, you know, what he showed at Tottenham, he is a very talented player. Lovely delivery. He's got that creativity. And also, I feel like if we get Eriksen, it won't cannibalise Emil Smith-Rowe's career. We know Eriksen is not going to be the long term. And we can even sort of prioritise Smith-Rowe in his development and have Eriksen when needs be. And the other thing is, if Eriksen comes to Arsenal as an ex-Tottenham player, he will not come to just coast because it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. He will know the history of players that have come from, Tottenham to Arsenal. Obviously, he's doing it via Inter, but you won't just do it if you're not going to be serious about your football. From the Chelsea to Arsenal, that one maybe is a bit different. But yeah, I think he'll come and he'll want to win Arsenal fans over. Otherwise, he'll get a lot of stick.
Yeah, you've got to be thick-skinned, to say the least, if you're coming from Tottenham to Arsenal or through any other route. We're over an hour in, people. Obviously, it's 9:15, conscious of time. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Mo, we didn't even touch on the next game, but we got Southampton twice. I think if we get some time, maybe Wednesday next week, maybe we can do another one next week after the two Southampton games. I'll try work that out with Mo. But what's your thoughts on the FA Cup weekend game against Southampton and Tuesday, both at St. Mary's? Big matches.
Well, I mean, look, Southampton are a decent team. They really are a well-drilled team under Hasenhüttl. So,
should I be honest? I answered this question earlier, and I'll start it off. I'm not confident, Mo. I'm really not confident. I think Southampton, you know, the manager, the character, the spine of the team and the quality, they haven't got abundance of quality, but they got good, efficient quality players. I think this will be the biggest test we've had for a long time. I think the Chelsea one wasn't really a test for us. I think Brighton, wasn't really. West Brom, Crystal Palace, didn't really. Newcastle, no. I think this one here, and I think we're going to lose on Saturday and draw on Tuesday.
I was going to say to you that I don't think we will win both games in after 90 minutes, basically. So we might win one, not the other. If we I think best case scenario is that we win the Premier League game and we qualify after extra time or on penalties or something in the FA Cup game. But my point is, I don't think we're going to have two 90-minute games where Arsenal win both.
Yeah.
So I think there will be some fireworks, But the thing is, you can't not prioritise the league. Obviously, that's so important. But I really would be gutted if we got knocked out of the FA Cup.
So would I. So would I. That's my thing. I can't say what I'd rather. Like you said, I'd rather draw in the FA Cup and win on penalties or whatever it is, and then pick up a draw or win on Tuesday. I think that's likely that can happen too. But it's up to the club to give me the confidence, and I don't think I've got that confidence yet from the last 6 games. And I know there's going to be changes. We're seeing Willian against Southampton this week.
Oh God,
100%. It's going to be a bit more stiff in there. And Southampton are going to play a bit better squad than they did against Shrewsbury. So I just think, I'm not too sure. I see Skullfuggery said something, no confidence going into this horror run of fixtures. Not going to lie.
It's a tough run. It is a tough run.
Time and time again, a flattering result like the 3-0, and then we flop. That's why I wanted to keep it short term in terms of the 2 Southampton games, and hopefully have Mo back on next week and then really delve into it, because I believe next Wednesday our next game will be Man United on Sunday. So yeah, hopefully
that's Saturday now, isn't it? The United game.
Oh, they changed it, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, January 30th. Saturday, January 30th, 5:30. So listen, I mean, real tough game. Southampton away twice, United at home, Wolves away, Villa away. We've just seen Villa really, really test Man City at the Etihad as well, and we're going away. So that's a big, tough run coming up. It's going to be interesting. And I feel like, we've had a decent run right now, but the fixtures haven't been like the hardest in the world. And trust me, they haven't been easy, because no game is easy for Arsenal with the run that we were on. But now it'll be very interesting to see how we come out of that.
100% Mo, 100% Mo. Like I said, conscious of time. And like Chris says, big up Turkish, Mo, and the whole chat. Seamless stream as per. Hashtag sell Arsenal. Hashtag come on you Gunners. And yeah, that is the hashtags to be using, people. And Mo, thank you for giving me an hour or so of your time again. Hopefully we'll be back next week, people, before the United game, after the 2 Southampton games. We'll discuss the tough run coming up in February and into March. And yeah, Mo, any last thoughts or words you want to tell the people?
Just happy we beat Newcastle, man. That, happy Aubameyang's back scoring as well. And look, long may it continue, man.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm here next week, and you're telling me that I should have been more confident. That's what I want to be hearing. So yeah, people, tune in. Hopefully next Wednesday, 8 p.m. If not, I'll keep you guys updated. I'll be back. I don't know when I'll be back. Just look out for the updates on the channel, people.